On top of every person being different, every allergist is different.
Every practice.
Yes.
What one says is like the gospel. Mm-hmm. The other one is like, no, that's fine. Our bodies are, it's almost like evolution. Like we're desensitized to panic and
trauma.
Like we're getting good at trauma.
Yeah. Can we also talk about the language, the pass and the fail? I
hate that. Hi.
Hello.
And welcome to EpiPod. Sarah is a mom to 2 little boys with food allergies.
And Danielle has navigated life-threatening allergies her entire life.
Living with an invisible health condition is so isolating.
The fear and the anxiety.
Trying to cover it up so you don't affect anybody else.
Especially your kids. Sound familiar?
Join us on the couch and take a load off with people who just get it.
We're so glad you're here.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, Danielle.
Welcome to EpiPod.
Episode 8.
Episode 8.
Yes. And today we are going to be talking about all things food challenges.
Yep.
Which can be referred to as like the gold standard for testing for an actual allergy. But I think that freaks people out.
Yeah. And I also, whether you're a child, you're a parent of a child going through it, or you're an adult who have spent your whole life not eating this, and you're like, oh my gosh, by the end of today, I may have my first whole serving ever of this. It can be really daunting.
Yes, and sort of a mind F. This is a family show, so I'm not going to say the F word.
No. Yeah, but I've personally been through, I think, over a dozen.
Wow.
A lot of money.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
It's my dog's college fund.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, same, I guess, with Graham. He did 2 kind of more standard ones in a typical allergist office. Mm-hmm. And then he has done dozens within the TIP program, so the Tolerance Induction Program at the Food Allergy Institute in California, which if you need to know more about that, just like drop back a couple episodes because we have a whole episode on that.
This is a pretty hairy topic.
It is.
And before we dive fully in, how was your week?
It has been good.
Yeah?
We had a good Memorial Day weekend. Mm-hmm. That we're just coming off of that weekend when we're recording this, and the boys have been off of school, so that's always a challenge, just like as a working parent.
Yeah, there was a chance that Graham was going to join us for today.
Yes.
A special guest.
Yes, and he didn't, mainly because he's freaking coughing again. And
it's
at first,
always something.
I know. And at first I thought, like, is this dosing related or I don't know. But then it's been pretty consistent. Mm-hmm. We've done the inhaler just to see if it helps. It really hasn't. Gave him some cough medicine. But he doesn't say he's acting normal. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, is it just...
Could be environmental.
Anything. Or is it just a slight cold that he's trying to fight off and like coughing is his thing? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, you're right. It always is something. And then we're supposed to updose today.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like,
wait, I haven't seen you since before you went to Denver for work. And
yes. Oh, that's true.
You've had some reactions, right?
2 small reactions. So funny enough, not funny at all. The reaction that he had that we talked about on the podcast a few episodes ago, that was when Mark was out of town in Denver. And then I went to Denver for work last week.
Bad juju. We need to sage Denver.
I know. I'm like, what's happening? And while I was gone 2 of the nights, he had like small minor reactions to dosing. One was like a bump on his tongue. He said his tongue felt funny. And then the other one was, oh gosh, what was it now? Oh, hives on his back. He had like 2 big hives on his back.
Wow.
Both went away with either observation, like literally doing nothing but like putting a cream on, like anti-itch type cream, and or taking antihistamine. So just, we always take it in the morning and at night anyway, but we just like gave it to him early, which now we've decided and talked with the providers that we're just going to do that. So like instead of giving it to him before bed, we're just going to give it to him 30 minutes before his dosing, to kind of help calm down the immune system a little bit so his body can really start to learn to tolerate the foods better, and have that opportunity without kind of going into a freak out mode.
How has that been mental health wise? Like, how have you, I know the first, I mean, I don't even want to say it's a minor reaction, like the first speed bump with the peanut dose, now being at a whole peanut, was really hard on you mental health wise. Like it really throws you.
It really does.
It's kind of like, I mean, for me, whenever I have a big dosing problem, it's similar to the slump after I've had an accident.
Yep.
Which prior to being in any sort of program was like only once every handful of years where I would have a minor accidental ingestion that would scare the heck out of me, but then it affects you for days.
It does.
Was it similar these times, or are you sort of getting into a groove of like, okay, this is really minor?
I think it's both, weirdly enough. So the first time, I think it rocked me more in terms of like just in that moment, and the day after having that like emotional hangover moment. And so in that way, I would say the second and third, while granted I was out of town, so I wasn't as close to it to have like the kind of reaction, although there was reaction, to what happened, but also like being away sucked also.
I was going to say that could even be worse.
Yes.
Feeling so much less, like you have no power. Not that you have a lot of power in the first place, but like you really can't be of help. I think
the thing though, it has desensitized me a little bit in the sense that I'm like, okay, this is our journey now. Like, okay, he might just be somebody who, as we updose, is going to be having these small reactions as his body is learning to get used to it. I hate it. It sucks. It is terrifying. Scary. And I will say too, like I said, it's kind of both because one, I'm desensitized a little bit to it, and I feel like I'm not as freaking out about the reaction part, but I will say I'm more nervous to dose. So we've been in the program 2 years, and I really have not been scared every time we go to give him a food. Like, I think a lot of people worry they're going to be that way, and maybe some people are, but like I have always felt trust in the program. I've always felt like we've gone at a very slow and steady pace to where his body is ready, and I've never been like, yes, watching him, but not obsessively. You know, like I'd continue to cook dinner and let him watch TV, and I wasn't like sitting next to him staring at him. Yeah. And now I feel like I'm a little out of my normal in that regard. Like I'm just double checking a little more, like, how you feeling? You know, which I've always done very casually to not freak him out, but I don't know. I'm a little more like pulling up the back of his shirt to see like, are we sure he doesn't have hives before we give him the second dose, you know? Yeah. So yeah, sometimes I feel like, speaking of food challenges, that we are doing food challenges every day.
No,
like,
that's what it is.
It's different, obviously, and we'll get into like what we've gone through food challenge wise in the office, both at TIP and standard office practice and OIT and all of that. But I don't know. It feels like a challenge, like a give him something, wait and watch sort of situation.
Every single day.
Yeah, it's brutal.
And it gets exhausting.
So exhausting.
I can relate to that, where, I mean, as I've shared in earlier episodes, I started having panic attacks for the first time ever in my life. Yeah. Right as I would swallow the dose. And the first time it happened really rocked me. Obviously you were there. And then it kept happening for about 2 months. Yeah. Pretty consistently. And I was desensitizing myself sort of to panic. Like I would still panic, but each time it would happen, it would cut down on time. And now it's to the point where it happens, like it only happened once all last month. Yeah. And as it was happening, like my heart is out of control. My thoughts are racing, but like it's almost like I have a second brain. It's like, everything's gonna be fine. Like you're probably gonna calm down perfectly all on your own in like less than 2 minutes. And then I would. And it's a blessing. And also it's so sad that we are living a life where our bodies are, it's almost like evolution. Like we're desensitized to panic and trauma. Like we're getting good at trauma.
Yeah. Which you're right. It's so screwy. That sucks. Yeah. I mean, it's good, I guess, for being able to handle really hard things, but like it sucks that we have to handle hard things. I don't know.
That's really hard. But I'm glad that you guys have a plan with the provider and you're still going forward. Like,
yeah. I mean,
you started the conversation with how are things, like really good. Yeah, so yeah. I'm glad that you're still able to have like a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. And
And I am scared we're going to updose soon, if not tonight, tomorrow. And that's to like a peanut and a half, which is like, one felt insane. And then to be like more than one, are you kidding me? I don't know. It just feels every step like that. I mean, by the time we're done with this cycle, before we go back to California next, like he'll be eating 3 peanuts.
Oh my God.
I know your face. It's like, that's how I feel inside for sure.
When before you were it would have been tragic if he ate something off of a table where peanuts had been and it had not been properly wiped down. Invisible to the eye. And now you're talking about 3.
Yeah.
People who don't live this life don't understand. Like, that is more than Mount Everest.
Yep.
Like,
craziness. Tell me what you've been up to.
Oh, okay. I'm doing well. Dosing has been doing well.
Amazing.
What has been going well? I am traveling tomorrow, so I get a vacation from dosing. I also took Memorial Day off because the weather is cuckoo bananas hot here, and I wanted to be able to drink.
Yep.
Right as I arrived at this pool party, and I did. And I think I'm having more grace for myself to realize, like, you don't, like, your whole life doesn't need to oscillate around this. You don't have to have your party activities start at 3 p.m. If you don't want to, you can just not do this today. And it also is making me, I'm just like collecting data, more and more data of being like, what if you just didn't do this anymore? Like, I really miss my life. I really miss my old life. But at the same time, I can't necessarily get my old life back because I know things that before I didn't.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
So, I don't know. Collecting data. Memorial Day was fun. It was nice to have now 2 vacations this week.
That's right.
I don't updose until mid-June. It'll be my first updose since these panic attacks have happened. And I feel strong enough to do it. So that's exciting. And I'm proud of myself for overcoming. I mean, it's been an absolutely wretched mental health-wise spring. And like, honestly, 4 months. But I'm here on the other side of it. I don't know about better for it, but I'm here.
I think you're better for it.
Thank you. And what else? Oh, there was a lot of peanuts at this party, like a lot.
Oh my gosh.
There was like peanut butter filled pretzels and like peanut M&Ms, like over 100 people at this like beautiful house, this beautiful pool. And a huge part of me wanted to be like, I gotta go. I don't want to, I'm touching everybody's hands. Like, I have not gone to parties because I know it's going to be like a Chick-fil-A buffet or something like that. So I show up and I'm like, I don't really want to be here anymore. But I stayed. I met one of the hosts right as we walked in, like one of the hosts who is not the person who invited us. It was a different host who invited us. And I was like, hey, like, this is funny, but is it okay if I put my bag in your room? And he was like, sure. Just, you don't want it to get wet? And I'm like, oh, like, I have a nut allergy and I carry an EpiPen and I don't want it to get hot. So it will for sure get way too hot. Even though it was in a cooler bag, I just didn't want to, it was so hot.
Yeah.
On Memorial Day weekend. And he was like, oh my gosh, my little brother has a really bad nut allergy. My parents are actually here. Like, we totally get it. Yes. Like, let me show you a closet you can put it in my room. It's air conditioned. Like, we're good.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And I was there with a friend and I was like, just in case I need this, because it's weird that it's not on my person. Here's where it is. Yeah. And I felt totally proud of myself for going. And we stayed till the bitter end of the party. I was totally fine. I washed my hands probably more than I typically do at a party, just in case, but I stuck it out. I'm proud of myself.
Yeah, I'm proud of you. Thanks. I think that's like, you're finding a balance that works for you. And I think that that's like the bread and butter of all things in life, right? Yeah. Like, if we find a way to take those calculated risks or like do the things we want to do despite challenges, like that is it. Like, you've done it. So yeah,
it's just been, I mean, I've done this my whole life. Yeah. But I feel like I'm a baby giraffe, like relearning to walk again. Being under so much stress with treatment. Yeah. And just like the mental health things I need to be overcoming right now. It's a lot. Yeah. So yeah, calculated risks. As I was doing this, I was like, Sarah would love this.
And I do. And I'm proud.
Thanks.
So go, Danielle.
Thanks. Food challenges?
Food challenges.
Okay. Let's jump right in.
Yes. And
for people who have I didn't know what a food challenge was until I was in my 30s and with at a provider's office where they actually did offer these kinds of more, in my mind, at least from my experience thus far, progressive, more gold standard ways. So for anybody listening, especially adult allergy people listening who are like, wait, what's that?
Yeah.
We should probably just give what it is.
Let's give our layman's definition.
Yes, so our non-MD, just the patient perspective.
Yeah. You want to go first?
Yeah. Essentially, at least from my end, they did the skin, the scratch test, and they did the blood test. And those are just hypotheses that give them the best guess, but sometimes they conflict. For example, peanut, huge skin reaction, and blood off the charts. So he was like, this is like obviously like, normal. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is,
like we know.
We would never food challenge this.
Right.
But some of them, almond being one, that had no skin reaction or very minimal and very minimal blood. And he was like, I really think you could be eating almonds. Like,
yeah.
Which was, I was like, what?
Which
eating an almond?
Your body might be sensitive to it because in some way, maybe it's like sharing some similar protein makeup as the peanut. But like, if you're not allergic to it, then you should be eating it. Like it's not harming your body.
Yeah. Like something that I have avoided, or I had avoided almonds just as desperately as I've always avoided peanuts.
Right.
I have been avoiding chickpeas, all legumes, all seeds, all tree nuts, and of course peanuts. And so we were food challenging all of the things that were conflicting on the blood test and the skin test, where he was like, one of them is obviously not right. Which one is telling the truth?
Right.
And I guess from patient to patient, it, you know, some people, the skin can be very trustworthy, and other people, it's the blood tests that are trustworthy. Or at the end of the day, it matters what you can eat safely, a whole serving of safely.
Right. And we should say too, like every allergist is going to be very different.
Wild West.
Yeah. On like what is their threshold for, well, the wheel and flare of the skin looked this way. And I think that, you know, based on your history or, you know, like, again, there's all these different data points that they're using. And so on top of every person being different, every allergist is different.
Every practice.
Yes.
What one says is like the gospel. The other one is like, no, that's fine.
Right.
Which is so confusing.
Which is also why I always advocate to get multiple
Opinions.
Yeah. Thank you. My brain not working. But yeah, and we did that. We went to 2 or 3 different allergists before we kind of settled with our local one here in Austin, because I wasn't sure. Like I was like, I just need to hear from one more person and maybe even like get them to analyze the data, you know, themselves and determine, do you think my son is highly allergic to this, or do you think we can food challenge it?
I thought my doctor was truly nuts, pun intended. The fact that he was like, we should food challenge all of these things, that some of them, skin and blood, say you're fine on both. Some of them, it's conflicting and we need to figure out which one is right.
And you're like, but are you flipping a coin right now? Like I'm not cool with a flip of a coin.
I mean, I think if you've listened to these, at this point, you know, I'm a very cautious, high anxiety, lots of trauma from food accidents. I'm not somebody who's like, oh yeah, sure, let me just try the food challenge.
Right.
It was a highly emotional and difficult decision for me to make, but I am so glad that I went through those food challenges. Best money I've ever spent. I'm now only managing the 4 tree nuts and peanuts versus before peanut, tree nut, seed, legume.
Right.
I mean, now if I go to a restaurant or a coffee shop and I tell them I have a very severe nut allergy, they say, okay, we have almond milk. That is the only thing that we have, but we have almond milk and we're not really sure if this is going to be safe for you. I can say, no need to wipe anything down. We're good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it really has, I mean, things that I've had reactions to in the past, I was fine with. Chickpeas.
Yeah.
Which are somewhat related to the peanut. And so, yeah, I guess.
Did your doctor think then that you just grew out of chickpeas then? Like your body?
There's a lot of different hypotheses.
Yeah.
I got COVID, one of the first, I was a January 2020 COVID person, and I have never been sicker in my life. Like had a 3-week long, terrible full body illness, fever. They did not know what was wrong with me. And it was before we even really knew what COVID, that it was not in the news yet. Yeah. I think there was a couple cases in like New Zealand or something, or Australia, somewhere on the other side of the world. But yeah, that's what we think it was COVID. We didn't have a test, but now looking back, we're like, oh, for sure, you had COVID. And sometimes like very severe illnesses can be sort of like a factory reset.
Yeah.
Or he was like, have you been pregnant? And I was like, No, it would have been immaculate conception and early onset dementia. Like, no, I've not been pregnant. He was like, well, have you been very sick recently? Like in the past couple of years or since your last test? And I was like, oh yeah, sicker than I've ever been in my life. Like world stops, parents have to fly out and take care of me kind of sick. And he was like, maybe it was that. Or maybe it's just time. Allergies change every 5 to 7 years, that you should get retested or whatever it is. Okay. But also say I have failed food challenges. I have passed food challenges. I've done over a dozen, and now I do almond butter almost every single day. So, as a very cautious person, I would say if you are at an allergist's office and they are offering and recommending you do a food challenge, I would highly, highly consider following their recommendation, because knowledge is power, and it can either, you're going to leave that office knowing I'm a huge door just opened and I am safe to eat this thing that I've been avoiding and managing for however many years, or I am still allergic to this and I can tolerate up to this much, or I'm very allergic to this, and my skin tests are a lot more accurate, we think, than my blood tests. Like, you are going to walk away with knowledge that may be, as dramatic as this sounds, life-saving.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, at the end of the day, just having some more understanding about allergies is wonderful, because there's so much gray area in the world of allergies. Like, there's nobody who can ever tell you for certain pretty much anything. So when you, either get good or bad news, but it's news, like it's information that is solid, and you can walk out of the door knowing something.
Also, it's so scary for someone who's been not eating something for their whole lives to be told, oh, now we're going to sit here for 8 hours in the office and possibly be eating a whole serving by the end of the day. It's like break the internet, except break your brain. Yeah. Like, you can't wrap your head around it. However, it is so important to note that it's not just like a willy-nilly decision for them. Mm-mm. They don't want a patient going to anaphylaxis. No. They're going to do everything to avoid that. They would not be recommending you do this unless they thought there was a very good chance that you're actually not allergic. Right. They've done the scratch test. They've done the blood tests.
They're taken your history.
Right. They're not just saying like, here's a peanut. They would never have me challenge a peanut. No. They would never have me challenge something that the levels were very high. Yeah. Something that I thought was really interesting too, and this was one of the things that made me be like, okay, I'm ready to take the plunge and try one of these food challenges, is he showed me that my blood numbers for sesame were not high, but they were showing, and my skin was showing a little, or it was something like it wasn't really there. I eat an insane amount of sesame. I always have. And so he was showing me like these tests, it doesn't mean necessarily, like, they are not the gospel. What's the gospel is what you're able to safely eat a lot of. Yeah. And you are, of sesame. So what if we could do that for some of the other ones? Initially, we thought I would just be allergic to peanut, which is wild. Turns out it's still the 4 tree nuts. And we learned that through a food challenge. Yeah. So
they are, like you said, a piece of like solid information to walk out of the door with, and worth it for that reason, I think, too.
You're also doing it in my mantra for food challenges was, you are doing this in the most safe place possible. You're not being flippant with yourself. You're under doctor recommendation, under doctor supervision. Right. This is so much better than it happening in the wild. Yeah. So yeah, I think that was a mantra that I really held on to. Yeah. To make the decision to do it. Yeah. Was you're in the safest place possible.
So you had said your experience was like 8 hours in the office. When we have taken Graham, before we entered TIP, we took Graham for what they call baked egg challenge. So his numbers were fairly low. They definitely thought like he is allergic, but like maybe he can tolerate it in a baked capacity, which for a young kid opens a lot of doors, because that's like, we can make a cupcake, we can like, yes, there aren't as many limitations when you can eat it in a baked form. So we were like, yay, this is amazing. Let's do it. So our challenge that we did prior to TIP was not as, it wasn't super similar to I think it was similar in that like the process was probably a lot the same, but we didn't like have a full serving of the actual allergen, like the actual nut or whatever, you know, it was always baked into a muffin. But I do think a lot of times when people are allergic to milk and egg, they start it in a baked form for a challenge. And I don't know if we actually gave like a firm definition of like what a food challenge is. And I'm not sure that like I have an accurate one anyway, but I mean, yeah, essentially it's like these allergists get some information based on skin and blood, like you said, and then they determine like, is this person possibly able to eat the food without reacting to it, because their numbers are either low or conflicting. And then you go into the office, and again, every allergist is going to have a completely different model for how they do it. But essentially, yeah, they start the child or the person giving them like a tiny, tiny dose. Like for us, when we did the baked egg muffin, I think it was like, I mean, they weighed it. They like took off a crumb, put it on a scale and weighed it, and he ate that. And then we monitored him. 15 minutes later, they gave him like another little dose. I think it was every 15 or 20 minutes.
Yep. That's what we did in my office. It was like every 20 minutes it would go up. And for every food, it looked very different. Like if it was in butter form, if it was the tahini, if it was like, if it was the actual chickpea, if it was pea protein milk, it was in a syringe, like it always just like looked really different. But that's why you're in a medical office. Like they're handling it. Yeah. They're handling the different scales and weights and
And so, then you eat it, you watch your kid, sometimes there's longer waits, like at least for us, like he kind of got a little blotchy. I remember after he ate about, I don't know, an eighth of the muffin or something, we got up to that point and he started to get some redness around his mouth. So they're like, we're going to wait, 30 minutes this time instead of 15 minutes. And then if nothing else progressed, then they felt comfortable giving him a little bit more. And at that point, I think that's when I started to get nervous, like, because to me, I see like redness around the mouth and I'm like,
that reminds me of something.
But like we're reacting, you know what I mean? Like I know that it's not anaphylaxis. I'm not an idiot, but he's obviously like eating something and having a response, whereas the rest of the world can eat this muffin and they're not going to get redness on their mouth. So my child is allergic. Do you know what I mean? So
I felt the same way.
It just is weird.
I will say, if you are wanting to see an example of a food challenge, this is actually how I first started going viral on TikTok.
That's right.
Is I was recording my food challenges. I was so nervous that I would take like work to work on my clients' things while I was in the office. I mean, you're there for almost the whole day. Yeah. 6 to 8 hours, depending on like if you're repeating things or if you're waiting longer, whatever. It's a long day.
Yes.
And I was so anxious that I couldn't work. And so I had one of my clients actually, being in marketing, she was like, why don't you just record it? Like record it. You don't have to post it if you don't want to, but it'll give you something to do, make the time go by faster. And if you want to post it, like maybe it will help somebody. And I'm like, that's a weird thought. Cut to, I threw it up there the next day and it was like 3 million people overnight. Woke up and was like, what? Like this is actually not just my weird thing. Like a lot of people are dealing with this.
Or at least interested in learning more about it, because it is kind of new.
Yeah. So if it's helpful and you want to see someone go through it, it is on my TikTok. It's at Danielle.she'sfun. And I think I have one of the food challenges pinned, but you can see, I mean, it runs the gamut. Like a very easy food challenge day, like the pea or the almond, to a fail when I failed pistachios. I did not need an EpiPen. It was an antihistamine. They had me wait there for a few hours to be observed.
Yeah.
And I failed, but it wasn't this dramatic, like, oh my God, hospital.
Stab you in the leg.
No.
Yeah, no.
It wasn't what I was expecting at all. And also it was like my hazelnut day, I was having what you were just talking about. Like I did get a little blotchiness and redness on my torso. I got a little blotchy redness here. Like you see him have me wait a little bit longer. You see him repeat doses. And just like, I had to make a decision that this is the doctor that I have chosen to put my trust in. And if he says, this is the favorite thing that he would always say, was like, I'm not going to stop for that. If he says, I'm not going to stop for that, we're not stopping for that. I have a little blotchiness. maybe it's a pimple, maybe I scratch myself, like who knows?
Right.
We're not going to stop for that. And at a certain point, sort of when you're always saying like, I just have decided to trust and tip.
Yeah.
You've done all your research, you've done all the pro and con lists, and then I'm just going to follow their lead.
Right.
Because this is my allergist that I have chosen, and second opinion, third opinion, whatever. This is the person I'm putting my trust in.
And you are following them, but you're not following them blind.
No.
You've done your due diligence. If you haven't, do that first.
Yeah.
And then, but if you've already done that, then you've chosen this person.
Yeah.
You need to trust in them, or you're going to make yourself crazy.
Oh my gosh. I mean, I already am making myself crazy.
Also, like, you don't have a medical degree, Danielle, and neither do I.
Exactly.
So like, who are we to say like, but no, it's like, well, of course we follow our gut. Like if something internally was like not right, or like we had that impending doom, which is actually a sign of like, or one of the factors of anaphylaxis.
Totally.
Like, I mean, that is something to like bring up, and I'm not saying like cover that up. But at the same time, like we have to deal in facts and reality here.
Yes. And I think that like, for me, is in the bucket of the facts and reality. The reality is I don't have a medical degree. I don't know the research. I chose this allergist because he is so researched, and because he leans so heavily on those things. Whenever I ask him a question, there is no research supporting that, or I do not believe that because statistically X, Y, and Z. So I do not think, but where we will see. If you want to try the food challenge, we will see.
Yeah. So
I think that was something else that I've received a lot of feedback where people are like, I cannot do this alone as an adult, a single person. Like, can I see yours? Can you send me when you failed? So if that's helpful for you, go look it up on my TikTok. If it's not, I don't think it would have been helpful for me. Don't look at it.
Yeah.
But
can we also talk about the language, the pass and the fail? I
hate that. As a toxic perfectionist, I've never failed at anything in my life. I was valedictorian and student body president. I'm not failing pistachio. It's just a pistachio. Right. I'm allergic to it.
Right. Like you set me up for failure here.
Yeah.
I'm allergic to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean that, and it's demoralizing to anyone. I'm also like, have the perfectionist gene in me, but like, I mean, I think for anyone to get like a stamp of failure, it feels really bad.
Like a cartoon.
And by the way, we didn't choose, right? Like, and by we, I mean like my child, you as a person with allergies, like nobody chooses to have these. So it's not like, well, we were fighting for the pistachio. You know what I mean? There's no teams. Like this is my body and it's uncontrolled, So for someone to be like, you failed.
It's not a school assignment.
No, it's not healthy. I don't like it. I think we need to change that language.
I do appreciate in a world of gray, which is allergies, that is one of the only like black and white pass.
Right.
You can eat this in the wild. Go make an almond croissant, Danielle. Fail. You cannot have pistachio ice cream. This is not safe for you. It's a yes or it's a no. So I had to also have that moment come to Jesus with myself of like, it's not a pass or a fail. It's just your doctor has determined this safe for you to eat unsupervised, or your doctor has said that this is one of your anaphylactic allergens.
Right. Yeah. So what did you, and I mean, this is probably more a question for myself, but I'll get into it in a minute, but like to bring a child into an office and have to sit in there. No, I think ours were more like 4 hours or so. We weren't there for 8 hours, but even 4 hours with a child in a doctor's office is brutal. Yeah. But I mean, I can imagine like myself going and sitting somewhere for 6 to 8 hours. I mean, that also sounds brutal.
Yeah. In a little exam room with the fluorescent lights above. And by the way, I'm the only adult there who is not there with a child. Okay. Right. Everybody else there is like maybe not even in middle school.
Yeah.
And then you have me and I'm like, hello, I'm here for my appointment. They're like, you can sit in the OIT room. And I'm like, you mean if I sit in that chair, it will snap. Like it's made,
like the little mini chairs.
It's made for 6 and under. Like what?
Oh my
gosh. So I mean, it's a lot. It's very similar to OIT though. I felt like I was going, it's like primary school and then you graduate to high school, which is OIT. I figured out ways to entertain myself. Documenting it was when I was really nervous, and then I was less of a need or a tool to calm myself down or do something with my hands. And more, I realized, oh my gosh, your and this has also become a mantra. I don't think I've shared this with you. Your struggle can be somebody else's survival guide. And I was like, I'm obviously like, there's such a need for this. I'm actually able to help people by just recording like my true struggle.
Yeah.
So one was like recording it and building a community. But honestly, just I brought my book. I had my comfort show that I already knew what would happen, whether it's like Friends or whatever. Like I already knew what the next scene is. I could probably quote it. And that was really helpful. I mean, it also is the timer goes off every 20 minutes. So you really can't settle into anything too much before the nurse comes back in.
Yeah.
And if it's going well, it's a lot quicker. It's not a full day thing.
Yeah.
And they're in and out. The time flies, really. Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of like being at the dentist, at least at my office, where they have a TV in every room that has Netflix and whatever. You pick your show.
Yeah.
It never really felt like that long of a day.
Right.
Yeah.
It does when you have a child.
Oh no. Yeah. So how do you do that? Like, because it's similar to you're not supposed to be getting your heart rate up. Like you're supposed to sit there.
Yeah. Yes. And I mean, it's a small room, so it's not like he can run around that much,
Right.
but still, yeah, I mean, obviously he wants to like get up and do things, and I think he can to some extent, but yeah, I mean, I think it's twofold when you're a parent, because like you're anxious and nervous and dealing with all like the mental health aspects, but then you're also trying to like keep your kid from causing a ruckus or like pulling down the figures, you know, or like pulling on the blinds, tearing off the things, you know, or like just keep them from leaving the room or getting upset, you know.
Terrible thought. But as you're describing this, it's like playing like a movie in my head. And all I have to compare this to is to my dog. And like my puppy was doing this. I would take off his collar, put him in the crate and put a blanket over it.
Yeah.
Like,
and you can't do that with a child.
You can't do that with a child.
Sometimes I want to, but
how do you, spoken like a true mom?
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, do you bring them activities?
Yeah.
iPad or what?
Yes. I remember the first time we went in, I messaged a mom on the internet, and I was like, that I knew had done it before. And I was like, what do I bring? And she was so kind to like voice memo me back and was like, this is what we do, you know? And, I mean, definitely all the activities, right? Like act like you're going on an airplane.
On an airplane, yes.
Yeah. So like definitely bring the iPad, anything that's going to keep them entertained, you know, like a movie, books to read to them. New toys was a big one. So like I went to, I think like the dollar store, like got small little dollar spot Target toys and things that he had never seen before. So like every hour or so I'd be like, what about this? You know, like out of the magic bag. And so it was, when a toy is new to a child, it takes up more like time for them to play with it.
This is the same with puppies.
Yes, exactly. And so
the new toy.
A grab bag of new toys, anything that they like that will distract them for a long time, like an iPad. A change of clothes is usually recommended, because if they do get sick, like, or if they're young enough to have an accident or something like that, I mean, you want to be prepared with like all the things. So whether you're going to possibly throw up or just have normal toddler things happen, you want to be prepared with the change of clothes. What else? Oh, snacks and food.
That's what I was just thinking. I completely forgot about that part.
Yeah. So you can bring like safe snacks. I mean, obviously if they're having to eat things like a muffin, I mean, sometimes for a little kid, I remember Graham was still very little when we did the baked egg challenge. And I was like, is he even going to eat this whole muffin? They're like, by the time it's done, he'll eat 2 muffins. I'm like, I don't know if my kid's going to eat 2 muffins, you know? Right. So another thing is to get creative. Like we would always bring, like icing, like safe icing, or like if you have a safe nut butter or something, or cookie butter or whatever it is, it to slather on top and bring some different options so that like they don't get fatigue from eating the same
thing
kind of
over.
not old, but like, you know, boring muffin.
Again, like this, it was the precursor to tip. Like you're getting creative of all the different things that you can do to hide whatever you're trying to hide.
Totally. Yeah. And so, I mean, so beyond those things, I would say just also pack your patience. Like just you're going to have to take some deep breaths when your kid gets like a little cabin fevery and wanting to leave. Or like if it just, seems like the day is never ending and you're feeling really stressed, like just prepare yourself mentally that like it might be a challenging day. Pun intended, challenging day. But it might not be. It might be a breeze, but it also might be like really emotionally exhausting.
I was not expecting just how emotionally exhausted I would leave there. Especially, like, I remember my first day, the almond challenge day, when I passed almond, honestly, it was one of the biggest days of my whole life. Yeah. Like, I was so elated. I was happier than any sort of graduation, any sort of anything. Like, it was one of the biggest days of my life.
Yeah.
And I wanted to celebrate. I wanted to call all of my family members. Like, I wanted them to celebrate me. Like, I was so excited, but it was 10 times more intense than after like a 3-day music festival when you like can't even use your feet because they've swollen up from walking in cowboy boots so much. Like, I felt like I was truly sick the next day. Not like, it was not from the food. Mm-hmm. It was my whole body had been
tense
on and just trying to keep myself together, insert expletive, for such a long period of time, and I'd never done that before.
Yeah.
And it was just like the come down of being so happy, being so stressed, being so diligent and keeping myself together. Like, it's a lot. So I think being able to factor the next day, if you are an adult doing this, just prepare your manager at work. Like, you may need to take a sick day the next day, like take 2 days off.
Yeah.
Or ask to work from home for the second day. Like, I just wasn't expecting the emotional hangover even after a good day.
The come down
was insane. Mm-hmm. Like, I started scheduling friends to come over to my apartment afterwards, because even though it was a pass, I just needed to be with somebody, especially after being in a room alone all day.
Yeah.
I needed somebody to sit with me, and I would tell them, like, I probably won't even want to talk. Like, let's just watch a movie. Like, you need those friends that are just the, like, you can sit in silence friends.
Yes.
I started scheduling that. I started pre-making food that when I came home, I didn't have to think about making dinner, going to the grocery store, nothing. Like, I was packing for myself, not just preparing for the day, but for the next, like, the evening and the next day.
Yeah.
After, and that would have been a huge game changer if I'd realized that on the first day. Like, I made plans to go out after, like, it was my normal life. Like, I was going to go, like, help my friend on her bridal photo shoot, and then we're going to go get tapas after. And midway through the bridal shoot, I was like, I got to go home. Like, I am fine. I feel fine. I'm dead. Every cell in my body is not up for anything but laying down.
Yeah. Just burnt out.
So burnt out.
Yeah.
Something else, back to the food thing, is thinking of it like you're taking an international trip.
Yeah.
Like, bring your meals, like, bring a safe meal. If you are not comfortable ordering like a DoorDash or something, I'm personally not, but like, I know a lot of people are.
Yeah.
Pack your meals. Like, they had water and snacks there, but I started learning, like, I had a chaser. Like, I remember telling them, it's like you're taking like shots. Like, the tahini day, which was like the ground sesame, even though I was good with sesame, they were like, we should do tahini. It's like liquefied.
Yeah.
Just in case you're not like actually crunching into the seeds, let's just make double sure. I was like, okay. I gagged the entire day. I thought I was going to lose my lunch, and it was just so bad. I couldn't handle the tahini.
Yeah.
So I would mix it in with Greek yogurt. That vlog was such a short vlog because I couldn't show myself dry heaving on the internet.
That's right. We talked about this because I said maybe you would have gone super viral if you had.
I was like, I don't want to be viral for that.
I don't want to be gag viral. Well,
no.
gross.
But yeah, I mean, also like something starchy was really helpful. Like having endless amounts of the little mini goldfish bags. Like a safe snack, a starch, plenty of things to mix it in with, but also the normal meals. If you're a parent, like, you're hyper fixated on your kid, don't forget, like, you're going to need the meals too.
Totally.
You're going to need water too. Maybe spike the coffee. Just kidding. Don't do that. or do.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. Or at least just, have a bottle on ice at home ready for you.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Because we actually received an email, and we knew we were going to be talking about food challenges already, but we received a very timely email from a mom who has a food challenge coming up, and it's in the far off future. So they're like practicing her daughter, I believe it's an egg allergy, and she gave us so much information, which is a lot of personal information that we won't share, but essentially the high level questions that I feel like you could really be helpful in is, how much are you preparing your kid for this? And I feel like it's very similar to the tip reactions. This child is, there's a lot of like the whole gagging thing.
Yeah.
The mom is concerned that if she's gagging just because she's never had a baked egg or something,
right,
that it's a new texture, it's a new food, and she's going to be gagging because it's a new food, or she's a very picky eater, as a lot of us allergy people are, not a reaction. And she's worried like, oh my gosh, they're going to epi my kid and have to have her stay in the hospital for a night because it's a new food, not because she's actually still allergic. So she was asking like, how much do I prepare her? Because on one side of the argument, okay, I'm going to tell her this is what's going to happen. I want to keep her fully in the loop. Just because she's little doesn't mean that she shouldn't have agency and understand what's about to be happening to her. But then it's like the psychosomatic. Like if you tell a kid your throat might get itchy, would their throat get itchy? Mine will. If you tell me, if I prepared this coffee myself and you tell me it may make your throat itchy because it may have your allergen, bet your bottom dollar my throat's going to get itchy.
Yeah.
You know?
Like when you were in school as a kid and they were like, oh, Sally next to you is home because she has lice. The very next thing you do is scratch your head.
Like, I have to call my mom. I think I have lice.
Yep. Oh my, I just started feeling it. Like, I think I have lice too. I mean, you're right. There's so much of that.
Like, just because they're little doesn't mean that wouldn't affect them. But on the other hand, not sharing it with her could, she's going to do the normal things that she does, like gag at a new food. Yeah. Or if she says, what if she's not speaking up, that her throat actually is quite itchy.
Because she doesn't want to get an EpiPen or something.
Or because she doesn't know, she doesn't know to communicate those. So what would you tell that mom, and how do you handle this with Graham, especially with, it's the same as with your dosing. Like, you need to know.
Yeah.
But not freak him out.
I think it definitely depends on age. I mean, like, how little are we talking, right? Like, if it's 2, 3, 4, like, I personally think, I'm not saying this is what everyone should do, but that, like, there should be a little information given to the child. Like, I mean,
there should be a little, or there should
very
be little.
Like, there should be little, like, not a lot.
I'm 32, and there should be little information given to me too. Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I just think not only the psychosomatic element, but also, like, they are too young. Their brains are too young to like even process what that means. Like when you tell them something, like, I just don't feel like they have enough mental skill and capacity to like understand what you're telling them. And then now they're just confused and like that's going to add to anything. I don't know. I just think the benefit, the risk outweighs the benefit there.
Yeah.
Now Graham, I personally still just give him the basics. So like I would say when we go in for a challenge, like we talk about, he knows he has allergies. He knows the program we're in and what we're doing. So when we go in for these appointments, I'm like, okay, like today, and I don't tell him like days in advance. I tell him like literally as we're getting to the appointment, right? Like, okay, we're going to the doctor. And then like, I might be like, as we're walking in, be like, yeah, today you're going to eat a peanut. And he'd be like, a peanut, and if he asks questions, I'll answer them. And otherwise, like,
he's like, look at that cat.
Right.
Yeah.
Like we're coloring together. It's not this big. I do think that like kids feed off of your energy. So
totally.
Like, of course I was nervous, but like, I feel like it's my responsibility to suppress that as much as possible so that he doesn't pick up on anything.
I remember in your video, the first time that you guys were in gummy form with Peanut and the provider is there giving it to him and he's like swinging his legs like he's just a little boy.
Yeah.
And you are like encouraging him. And then you had to turn away for a second and just be like,
collect myself.
Yeah. Away from him. And I mean, you're just like, truly, I feel so blessed that you're my friend too, but in my head, you're such an inspiration. And you're such a superhero to me. And seeing you turn and do that, I was just like, oh, like she has the weight of the world on her shoulders and you just handle it with so much grace.
Thank you.
I'm so impressed with you.
Thank you.
And something else that I'm like, don't even know why I'm crying.
You make me cry.
We always cry.
I know. Where are the tissues?
It's just a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Something else that has been really inspirational for me that I see you guys do that I think it doesn't matter the age. And then I've really tried to make a part of my own routine when I go to the allergist for dose ups and also when I'm doing doses at home is you said to me once, like, this can't be like he has to do this every day. Like, this can't be hard and scary for him. Like, I'm not going to make him think that this is like a terrible thing that he has to do every day. He gets to be on his iPad. Like, it's just this thing that we do. He tells me if something's wrong, but like, you keep it light, you keep it fun. You don't try to control so much. Like, if he wants to get up off the couch for a second or something like that.
Right.
And I really was like, oh my gosh, like I have to treat myself like that too. Like, you have to treat yourself well and fair.
Yeah.
That it doesn't need to be, I mean, it is a really big deal that you're doing this, but it doesn't need to be white knuckle. This is life or death. Oh my God. Like, full Chinese fire drill going on inside of your brain. And so I think that has also been so inspirational and helpful for me to see the way that you guys handle your dosing of like, it is a big deal. You do have to follow the rules, but it's not, doesn't need to stop your world, and like the world does not need to be lit on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, I definitely, even down to the things like how I'm speaking, like keeping my voice like elevated and light, or like talking about different things, asking him about his show. And from that, it's like, I can even hear like, does his voice sound different? Or like, I can kind of sit next to him and be hanging out, and then did he just like scratch his arm? Oh, did he scratch that same spot again? Now I can kind of glance down, like, is that just his eczema? Is that something new? You know, I think I can do it in a way where, it's not this like scary situation for him. And that gives him a little bit of a, not a break, but like being a kid should be carefree, right? And he doesn't always get that with allergies. And so, yes, I'm doing dosing and things for him to open his world, but at the same time, like, I'm not trying to make it smaller right now either, you know? So anything I can do to make it less daunting, you know, less scary in any sort of way, like, I'm gonna do that. So that not only is it better for him emotionally, but also like, he's not gonna push back, you know, on anything.
It's doable.
Yeah.
Because if you were and showing him that every single day, I don't know how you could keep doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't know either.
Yeah. I don't know. I think about you guys literally every time that I dose now. Like every single time I picture, or like when I need to be the parent for myself and like talk myself off the ledge, like it is your voice in my head. It really is. The way you handle it is so beautiful.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. It does feel like a challenge every day. But we are, you know, we're built for this, right? Like we chose it. We've slowly but surely worked up to a point where I do feel very strong. Like I do feel confident that like I am the best mom for my kid, and I can handle this. And therefore he can handle this.
Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You're like, really, you have so much that you're doing. And I'm just like, how does she do it all? Like, I'm just so proud of you.
Oh, thanks. It does feel like a lot. Like, I mean, I won't lie and be like, everything's perfect and I feel so good all the time. Like, a lot of times I really feel like I'm drowning.
Yeah. That's kind of being a human.
Yeah.
But you drown really beautifully.
Thank you. You cry very beautifully.
I'm like, I keep getting that feedback.
Yes, you do. You're a beautiful crier. You are not Kim K at all.
Oh my gosh. I certainly don't have her cup size.
Or her butt size.
I was going to say.
Oh my gosh. But you're more beautiful. That's for sure.
Thanks. Okay. Well, I hope that answered everyone's questions.
I know.
And if not, I mean, we are just laymen. So talk to your MDs, get the second opinion.
Yes.
Our emails and DMs are open, but I hope this helped.
Yes. Yeah, definitely. And I'm sure there are things we missed, but we'll circle back at some point.
For sure. Let us know if we did.
Yes.
Should we jump into our Q&A?
Yes, let's do it, because this is a fun segment that's actually brought to us by InchBug.
Yeah.
It's a waterproof label company, personalized name labels, and they also do allergy labels for kids.
So you guys use this, right?
Yes. I mean, we slap them on. I just actually literally put an InchBug label on Ethan's lunchbox today because he started a new like summer program and he has a different teacher. And so we like grabbed one out of the drawer that we had and slapped it on his like new bag that was going to that classroom. We also put it on his new lunchbox. It was kind of getting grimy from like a year of use. So we got him a new lunchbox and put that on there. And I swear those things never budge. And on water bottles and things, they can go in the dishwasher.
Nice. Well, the InchBug owner is actually a food allergy mom herself.
She is.
Which
She's
is
lovely.
Epic. So she totally gets what is needed when you're sending kids to a summer camp or a school or something like that. There's more information in the show notes, and we actually have a little code. It's EpiPod 25 if you want to purchase. There's a little kickback,
a little happy discount.
Yeah, but it's all linked in the show notes. Okay, first question, Sarah. How do you and Mark determine who does what? Was it always that way? And how did you feel about giving over the control if it wasn't? My husband is a very involved father and I work full time. So he is the primary to and from daycare, etc. for our 1.5-year-old. However, I do and have done all of the allergy worrying, planning, appointment, all of it myself. I know that it's too much for me, especially because we may be starting OIT. I need to give up some of the allergy brain to my husband, just looking for some guidance on how to actually do that.
Wow, what a really good question. Yeah. And I'm already can tell that this person comes from like a really loving relationship, and the fact that she says that her husband is like really active and involved already, like I feel like she's going to have an easier time than maybe some other people. I mean, I have friends who have amazing husbands, like they're our good friends, but like the split is just not even, right? I mean, and it's a little bit more traditional in the sense of like, you know, our parents' generation.
Is that because like she is a stay-at-home mom and her job is a full-time mom?
Not usually. I mean, so I do have friends who like the mom stays home and she carries more of like the day-to-day or like household weight. And I think that for most people that makes a lot of sense. But even still, like her husband comes home and is like amazing. Like she has such a good situation. He comes home and he's like, we both worked all day, you know, like you need a break, go take a break. And he like does dad things, you know? So there are progressive people like that. And then I think that there are some people who just like, it is the way that
I'm just going to keep it to myself, but I'm having a lot of thoughts.
Yeah, I know. I have a lot of thoughts on it too, because that is just not my way at all. Now, granted, going back, I mean, I also work full time, plus do a podcast and other things.
Right.
You know, I think sometimes when I say I work full time, I feel like sometimes people are like, you mean you do like your Instagram page and stuff? And I'm like, no, like I have like a 9-to-5 corporate job and so does he. And then I also have side hustle things. He has plenty of hobbies and things he wants to do. So like we're both very, very busy people. I do, all that said, I do believe that just naturally women take on oftentimes take on more of a caretaker role, an emotional role in raising our kids.
I can see that when they're so little, like they literally need your body for their body to be sustained.
Right. Yeah. Like if you're nursing and other things. And then it's just, I mean, it's just nature, right? Like it's like women take on like that nurturing comfort role a lot of times. That's not 100% of the time. Right. And my husband is very nurturing, but it's again, just kind of nature. But Mark is super involved with the allergy stuff. Yeah. I think one of the things, especially before she gets into OIT, would be to like really look at the breakdown of what's going to need to happen day to day, really look at, and together, I mean, not just like her doing her own research, like stop yourself right now. If that's the tendency, like, well, I take on this and this, stop. Just like immediately stop and have like a glass of wine with your husband that night and be like, let's go through, like do it together, make it fun. My husband and I always do that. If we're prepping doses and like putting all the nuts and seeds in the different jars, like we're turning on the music after the kids go down, we're turning, opening a glass of wine or having a, cocktail and doing it together. Is it super fun? Like, would it be more fun to like sit on the couch and watch TV? Sure. But like,
this is what it is right now.
Yeah. So we're going to make the most of it. And so we did that. We were like, okay, what is this going to take? Like, kind of write it all out or like think it all out and then decide like, okay, how are we going to do this? It doesn't even have to be like mom does this, dad does this. It can literally just be like, here is what we're facing. Okay, how are we going to tackle it? Like
divide and conquer.
Yes. And so I think that having like a game plan like that is the best. And then also, look at your schedules. Determine like, when does he get off of work? When do you get off of work? When are we going to do dosing? Or do we have time on the weekends to prep things and do things? And then just, if you have like really open communication, your husband and you, like, just bring this up, like literally say exactly what you typed out in the question to him. And if you don't have that, I think that's like the first step, right? Like, work on how are you going to figure out having a more open relationship, not open relationship. That sounds bad. Open dialogue relationship with your husband. I think that like, that's like the chief problem if that doesn't exist. And if it does, then I would literally like even tell them like, there's this podcast I love to listen to. Like, I would love to listen to it with you. And also like, I wrote them this question because it's something I've been thinking about. Like, let me read it to you. And then he might be like really surprised by the fact that like you're having these feelings, and not in a bad way, but just be like, oh, like, thank you for telling me.
I would love to. How can we make you feel like you're not doing 100% of the worrying and whatever? Something, I'm not a parent. However, something that I think is a big takeaway for people from your story that you were already just talking about at the very beginning. With treatment, even without treatment, there are incidents. There are reactions. Some of them are mild, thank God. Some of them are not. But no matter what it is, even if it's just a little jump scare, like it was a mosquito bite and you think it's a hive, you're talking about what made these extra hard is when it was just one parent. When you're used to double teaming it. And I think that that's a big takeaway is there comes a point, especially like whether it's a kid not in treatment and they're getting older and they're exposed to more and they're not a year and a half, so you can't control 100% of their world, or they're in treatment and you have a lot of new factors, literally their allergen coming at them every single day, and it being food challenge in your house every single day. You need two people. You need to be double teaming it. So just being aware that like, in order for you to A, have a child that's aging, or B, do treatment, C, probably both, it sounds like, you're gonna need to tag team it. So it's not really a when or how, it's not an if, it's a when. Like it's gonna have to happen. So it's just figuring out the how.
I would also say that made me think of something else, that when I'm gone or like Mark is doing something, for allergy things, he is always texting me updates and telling me, like, even like as simple as like, here's what I cooked them for dinner, because he knows it will like put me more at ease. So one thing that this person could do to like kind of gradually get their husband more involved is not just be like, you're not, not that she would do this, but like, you're not involved, I need you to do this. Like, before you even get to that like breaking point, maybe start just like including him, right? Like sending him texts, like he's at work or he's doing something and you're prepping something, and just literally like no pressure, no like any kind of, what's the word I'm looking for?
It's like a routine.
Passive aggression.
This is a routine for you and Mark that I have seen time and time again. If you and I are out getting wine, you'll look down at your phone and we're adding parking time or something. And you'll look down at your phone and be like, oh, good. And I'll be like, what? Like, Mark fed the boys. Look, this is what he made them. And also, oh, the doses went great. Bath time's great. Oh, they're down. Okay, cool. How much time are you adding to your meter? 20 minutes. Okay, I'll add 20 minutes. 40? Okay, well, I'll add 40.
Like that's how it goes.
It doesn't need to be like the high stakes of like something has happened. You guys are doing that every single time, no matter what. Like that is your routine. And I love that about how you guys operate. And
I think if you don't have that yet, I think by you doing that and just including them in the conversation and like including them in what's going on with the allergy things, like literally sending him a text and saying, I just emailed the teacher, the stuff about his action plan, like,
or CCing them on everything.
But like, just letting them know, like, today I did this, today I did that. Again, not in a passive aggressive way.
No.
Not in like I did this, you see what I did, and keeping score way. Like literally like, just so you're aware.
It needs to be on your radar too.
Yes.
You're his other caretaker.
Right. And I think that will like gradually get them more involved. Maybe they'll start asking questions. And then again, you can have like an open and honest conversation. Just the other day I was feeling really overwhelmed, and Mark, I went up to Mark, this was before Graham's birthday party, and I said like, I need you to take something. And he is we are so 50-50 on so many things, but like I was just in that moment, like having a hard time with like all these other things. And I said, I need you to take something. And I was like, what do you want to take? And he was like, well, I could do the cake. And I was like, okay, great. You're taking it.
Thank you.
Take the cake.
And it turned out so good.
Amazing. He did fantastic.
British Bake Off Awards or whatever that show is.
I love that show. But yeah, so just like try to slowly but surely involve them. I would say try to have like as much open and honest conversation about how you're feeling, and definitely before OIT or anything of the like, having like a game plan of what it's actually going to look like, the time it's going to take, the things that are going to be required, and talk through your plan on how you handle it together.
Yeah. Even like when you were talking about this is what it's going to take, well, I didn't know what it was going to take when I first started.
Yeah.
Like it can be as simple as like, it feels like eating an elephant a little bit. And you're like, I don't even know what the elephant looks like. So it can be as simple as like, we have like, it's family meeting. Like every Sunday night after the kids go down, like we make the game plan for allergies for this week.
Right. What does it look like this week? Yeah. Taking it step by step, but you're doing it together.
Yeah. Because as the programs progress, it changes. Yeah. And the hurdles come in ways I never know that I never knew I was going to have these hurdles.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%.
I hope that's
advice. Helpful.
No, that is such good advice. I love that.
Okay. Let's do question number 2.
Yes.
Okay. Danielle, any tips for managing stress as a food allergy parent going through food desensitization? So
as a parent,
yeah. Well, I think this applies. That was
too.
The question, but like, yeah, how do you just manage the stress in general?
No, I totally feel like we can both speak to this.
For sure.
I think it's first, like, you need to realize like what you're doing is absolutely huge, like enormous, and it's going to test you in ways that you didn't know that you were going to be tested. So just being aware and like already giving yourself a huge heaping amount of grace of like, this is a lot. Like, how come people who are going through really into like, if somebody says chemotherapy, you're like, holy cow, like that must be a lot.
Or even like infusions or anything.
I'm not saying this is cancer. I'm not saying this is renal failure, but I am saying like, this is a life or death. This is a really big thing that you're undertaking. So give yourself the amount of grace that deserves, not the amount of grace, aka no grace, that the, mass media, it's a joke. This is just a little peanut or just a little bit of milk in it. Like, this is a huge thing. Yeah. And I feel like that's something that I didn't do and I didn't realize that I needed of, this is going to be huge and hard and you need the more grace than you probably have the ability to give.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I started looking at myself the way that I would treat my friends were she or he going through something like this. And I was like, holy cow, a lot different than the amount of expectations you're putting on your shoulders right now. Easier
said than done, but that is fantastic advice. And I would say like similar to that is just, again, prepare yourself that like you are going to be stressed. Like, I think you know that, but like, what is your game plan on handling it? You know what I mean? Like, do you think you're going to need it? Like, you know yourself. So like, should you, before you even start a program like this, should you find yourself a therapist to speak with?
My doctor recommended I get a therapist before I started.
Yeah, fantastic.
He could already see like, this girl's going to need some support.
Helpful.
Did I wait over a year?
Yeah.
Yes, I did. Why? Because I always have to take the harder path. Yeah. I don't know. But
since you've been, it has been so helpful for you to have a therapy session.
And like, even when I'm in the trenches, I feel like I'm not at least in the trenches alone.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I would say like, know yourself, like sit down and have like a real heart to heart with yourself and being like, okay, what am I going to need to get through this? I would say though, for me to keep in mind that while the beginning will feel hard because it's brand new, it does in these programs, like these that's what we're talking about, right? Desensitization programs. It does go slow, right? Like it is not like you're jumping in head first. Like you start at a very small amount and you work yourself up. Or your child through this program. So like you are slowly but surely gaining tolerance mentally, you know, and again, it is like time after time you're having to like up dose or do something. So there is always like a new roadblock or hurdle, but like you're more prepared, you're more used to climbing over it, you know, getting past it, getting through it. So like, I think don't freak yourself out and think like, I absolutely cannot handle it. Like, I think give yourself more credit that not only is it a really hard thing to do, but like you really are going to be able to tolerate it mentally, I think, if you prepare and if you go slow and you also reach out to people, like whether it's a therapist or a friend or a person on the internet who's going through it too, like finding your people that you can talk through it with, or just at least seeing something that makes you feel like less like an alien on an island. Like, I think to me that is helpful.
It's such a marathon, not a race. That is, it's not just like, oh, today didn't go well, or today you just couldn't get the dose in because whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean like this is a years and years long thing. So make it sustainable inside of your brain for it to be a years and years long thing. It's not finishing a research paper or whatever, anything else in your past lives. There's nothing else like it.
Yeah.
I just also think that when you're talking about having a community, I think it's really important to keep that small though.
Yes.
Like you have the one account that doesn't trigger you, or you have the trusted food allergy, anxiety, trained specific therapist.
Yeah.
You have your family, like you only open up to the people who are going to treat you well and be so empathetic and so understanding. So you're not spending the bit of free time and energy you have feeling like you need to justify and explain yourself.
Yes.
I get so easily triggered by allergy content. I do not follow allergy content. I'm not a part of allergy groups.
Do not get on Facebook. That's another thing.
Do not get in a Facebook group.
Ugh,
do not, because even just, I had to turn off the comments on a lot of my allergy videos because people are trying to be helpful, but I started taking on other people's things.
Yeah.
Mangoes. I used to eat mangoes. Somebody told me they're related to cashew. I used to eat mangoes to the point where I would get sick. Stopped eating mangoes.
Yeah.
Somebody told me, oh, Nutella, we passed hazelnut with Nutella and it gave us a reaction when we ate it in the raw, and Nutella is not a good thing to test with. Now I feel like, what was that even all for? Oh my gosh. You start letting the internet and faceless strangers become your MD.
Yeah.
And it's not because you don't have mental fortitude or you're being weak or, you're letting people be influence over you. You're just a human.
Yeah.
Who's like taking in too much information. Our brains were not wired evolution wise to take in this much information and have this many opinions. Do not get on the internet. Do not follow a bunch of random accounts. Do not join Facebook groups.
Just have a small circle of people you love, who love you,
yes,
that you can share with.
Think of it like the presidential cabinet. Yeah. Like the president isn't going to every person in America and asking for advice. Like they have these 3 chairs and these are the people that they go to or whatever. Form your cabinet, form your Avengers, whatever you want to call it, and then block out all of the noise.
Yeah. That's great advice. I think the only thing I would add would be if you have a hobby or something that helps you, like if you like yoga, I mean, like obviously I'm very busy. I don't get to it all the time, but like the weeks that I can fit in like 2 or 3 yoga classes, I mean, I am just mentally better.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah.
A hobby that has absolutely nothing to do with allergies and quiets the anxiety. For me, I picked up adult figure skating, which is hilarious. And when I'm not a figure skater, like I can barely go forwards and backwards, but my whole brain is dedicated to staying upright and not cracking my teeth on the ice. It's the only thing that will shut off my anxiety and my allergy anxiety. If I'm having a really hard time getting out of the cycle of the stress from dosing, because you get in these patterns, you're just like, you can't break out of it. It was this really stressful morning and then it just runs the rest of the day. My quick fix, it's like switching on and off a light switch, is going ice skating for 30 minutes. It's like a factory reset.
That's amazing.
Because your brain is just like, don't fall down, versus like, are we having hives? Like, how's our throat?
Right.
Yeah.
So find your thing.
Find your thing.
That's, I mean, I think that's with any kind of stress, but definitely stress that comes along with this. I would say that might be helpful.
Yeah. I love spending time with you. We got to go.
We have to go. I have to pick up my children as usual.
My dog is begging for a potty break.
That's right. Okay, let's get out of here.
Or both of our children.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. I know the dogs aren't children.
And
I'll see you next week.
Yes.
Okay.
This same time, same place.
Same time, same place.
Not really. We're chaotic with our scheduling here, but we will record it and have an episode next week.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.